Alright, I thought you might be interested in my hunting bag setup. This is 2023 whitetail hunting season, and this is what I carry. So just to get a couple of things out of the way, I'm predominantly a ground hunter. I do a lot of sneaking around, often on large tracts of crown land wilderness, often on my own forested private property, and also on Manitoulin Island, which is all private property in a mix of fields and forests. So I hunt on the ground. Sometimes I'll hunt in a stand, but mostly I like to get into a property and kind of pick it apart a little bit and see what I get. So I could be close to a trail, I could be far away from a trail. The deer that I shot this year was about 600 meters away from the nearest trail on the other side of a swamp, because I like to go where the deer are, and I don't let a long drag out deter me from following deer to where I think that I'll have my best chances of getting one. Okay, first things first, you probably want to know what I shoot. So here it is. It's a Seiko model 85S. I should have known that just off the top of my head. Chambered in 308. And on top I've got a loophole scope. And this is a 2 to 7 power scope because I do a lot of close range shooting, although I have successfully harvested deer at about 200 yards with this rifle. Okay, so there it is. And also critically, as a ground hunter, your rifle has to have a sling because you need your hands free when you're moving through the woods. On my last deer hunt, I hunted 2 days on Manitoulin Island, and I never unslung my gun in that whole hunt unless I was crossing a barrier, and then I would unsling it to like crawl under or over something, and then it was right back on my shoulder. I don't walk in the ready position. I have my binoculars in the ready position. So we can talk about binoculars, but first off, what's the most important thing in your hunting bag? It's your paperwork. So I have a Ziploc bag, and in that Ziploc bag I have all of my tags, I have my license summary, I have my landowner permission forms, I have all my licenses. I have my waterfowl license, I have my fishing license. I keep it all in one Ziploc bag. And then in there I also keep a few zip ties if I need to tag an animal physically, and I'll keep some flagging tape and things like that if I need to mark a trail or a blood trail or leave a sign for somebody, and I keep a pen. So a pen's good for taking notes, leaving notes for people, marking your tags, things like that. Okay, that was boring. Let's get that out of the way. It is the most important. Second most important is a pair of binoculars. I actually carry a fairly large pair of binoculars. They're a little bit hefty, but I really like these. These are my main bird watching binoculars. I'm very comfortable with them, and I use these extensively. So like I said, guns on my shoulder, and I often walk, sneak, move, and both hands are on my binoculars, and then I can very quickly have a peek and look through cover, look beyond where my eyes can normally see, and really pick out deer from a distance, which gives you a huge advantage when you are stalking and sneaking up on them. So a pair of binoculars is a must-have. Now honestly, most of us are hunting with some kind of electronics or gadgets, so maybe I'll tackle that piece next. Where I go, I'm almost always within a cell signal. I can pull up a location on my phone. I have an iHunter Ontario app that lets me see property boundaries and so on. But I do occasionally hunt in areas that do not have a cell signal, and so I always have a GPS in my hunting bag. Okay, so GPS, very important. And GPS is useless without batteries, so I keep a pack of 4 spare AA batteries, and always, when all else fails, trusty compass. Okay, and I use this all the time to find my way through the woods or to navigate to landmarks that I see on my mapping app. If I can get a rough direction on it, I usually use my compass to get there rather than like follow the little arrow on my phone. So I've got some navigation equipment. When I'm moving through the woods, I'm obviously trying to be as quiet as possible, but the first thing in my mind is which way is the wind blowing. I want to make sure that something's not going to smell me before I get close enough to, see it and surprise it. And for that reason, for light wind conditions, I usually have a bag of milkweed floss from the milkweed pods, and I might just stuff those down into a vest pocket or even my pants pocket. And then anytime I'm really not certain about the wind, and just pull out a pinch of that and just let those little flosses float on the wind, and they're going to tell me which way the wind's blowing. So those are really important, and you just go out and pick these yourself somewhere. They grow all over the place. They're very easy to dry out. Once you have them, they'll live in your pocket forever. They don't decay very quickly. They're hypoallergenic, and they're really useful for doing wind direction. Wind direction. Oh, sound. So even though I'm trying to be as quiet as I can, I will often snap a twig, stumble. I've even been known to fall down a hill, slip off a rock. So anytime that I make a little bit more noise than I want to, I always have clipped on my vest a deer grunt. And so I don't use this obsessively, but when I'm moving around and I feel like, oh, I think I made a little bit too much noise, I'll pause. I'll do a little call. I think a doe call works better than a buck call personally, but this is what I've got with me. And it just sits right there in my vest, and it's always handy. So that's good for covering up any of my noise. I'll also often bring a small piece of deer antler, and same thing, if I'm in an area and I think I made a little bit too much noise, I might just knock this against a few branches. I might rub this up and down a small tree to mimic the sound of a deer polishing up its antlers. And so this is also a good cover noise. It doesn't have to be a big antler, right? Just a small piece of antler will do. I found this one in the woods, and now it lives in my hunting bag. And you can also use this to like tempt deer out. I have a friend who basically carries like a little spike antler with him, and he fooled a buck into coming out into the open just by scratching that up and down a tree, sounding like a young deer. And this big guy came out to teach that deer a lesson, and totally fooled by a small piece of antler. So I carry that around with me. Food and water. I like to carry a soft-sided water bottle, and if I'm out for 5, 6, 8 hour day, I'm gonna get thirsty, and I like to have some water with me. And the reason I carry a soft-sided one is in a hard-sided water container, when you move, that water sloshes around sometimes and it'll ping or clang or make weird noises in the water bottle. And with a soft-sided one, you can basically squeeze the air out of it as you drink from it, and then when you seal it up, there's nothing in there to slosh around. And I find that a much quieter option when you're relying on your quietness when you're hunting. So, this one came out of a Nomadic quarterly box, I think, and I thought, oh, that's kind of neat, and it immediately found a home in my hunting bag. And so on the food side, I often throw a few snacks in there. If I'm going to get out and miss a lunch or something because I'm in the bush, I might bring some homemade snacks. This is blackberry apple fruit leather with coltsfoot honey. This is Stevie Funfur's concoction. Really delicious. Great when I'm out and about. Or I might pick up a few commercial protein bars or meal replacement bars just to have that like big chunk of calories. A good tip is if you take these out of their noisy wrapper and then rewrap them in like that waxed cloth or in even just any other kind of a soft cloth or container, it'll be a lot quieter when you're eating these in the woods. And if I'm eating in the woods, I might have to poop. So, you know, no shame in that. It's probably the nicest place to go for a poop. So I always have a Ziploc bag. I have wet wipes in here. I have toilet paper in here. I have napkins in here. And so this is like my toiletries bag, but it also can double up as my cleanup bag. If I get a deer and I got that deer and I'm all covered in blood, then I can do like a wipe down and then use a quick dry cloth to dry my hands off, which will help to keep them warm as I start to cool down after all that work. I don't typically wear nitrile gloves, but it's nice to keep a couple in my bag. I often hunt with people who are new hunters and they might really want to participate in all the after work of a deer kill. And a pair of nitrile gloves goes a long ways to making that a way less squeamish experience for somebody who's new to it. Or if you have an animal and you're worried about parasites, or it's like particularly bloody, or you've got cuts on your hand and you don't want to expose them, it's always a good idea to have a few nitrile gloves with you, and I usually throw those in with my paperwork. And if I go back to my rifle, I usually bring 3 bullets with me in my magazine. To be honest, I'm really kind of a one and done shooter, so I don't take, I don't want to say I never miss, but I don't take bad shots or risky shots. I like to really wait for a good shot on an animal and know that that first bullet is going to do the job, and then I don't second guess. I know it's a lot of fun to empty a magazine while something's running away, and I just really refrain from that. But I do carry a full box of ammunition with me, so or a full box minus the 3 that I've put in my gun. So I do always have extras with me. You know, I can picture a scenario where I might be stuck in the woods and I want to signal somebody and I don't have any other way to signal. At least I have, you know, options to fire off shots and so people can locate me. I sometimes hunt on farm property where the property owner really wants you to also, you know, shoot at coyotes or wolves. So, you know, if I get out and I start popping off rounds on a coyote or a wolf, but I'm still primarily there to deer hunt, then at least I've got lots of backups. And if I go out and I just pack this, but I end up hunting with some buddies out of a camp for a few days, I've got extra rounds for shooting at more than 1 deer. If I bump my scope and I really want to like know if it's still zeroed, I can get out, take a couple practice rounds, and I still have lots of bullets left for a deer. I typically shoot once per year for 1 deer. But I'll carry that extra box with me, and I got lots of bullets. I now, in the digital age, I carry a battery bank with me. Okay, so I have extra power if I need to power up devices, and that would be my phone. I try and remember to bring a charging cable with me so I can power my phone up if I need to. And also, more importantly, power up flashlights. So I bring 2. I bring 1 for when I try the first one and it doesn't have enough power and I need to switch, because that always happens to you. But I have 2 flashlights and they each have their charging cable with them. So this is an O light, the Perrin 2. This has been my standby light that I use daily or weekly for like every day the last 2 years when I go outside, when I'm hunting or whatever. So that comes with me. And this is a smaller and lighter, more versatile flashlight, I would say, in a lot of ways. This is the Woobin E7. This is a new model that I'm testing out. And so I brought that out with me and had the charging cable. And then at least I know that I have lots of light. And I will tell you 100%, I've been out with people hunting with them and they don't have a light. And so it's really handy if you can each have a light. And then you don't have to like walk forwards and then lean backwards so they can see behind you when you're moving through the woods. I haven't used this yet, but I do have a small pulley and a lot of rope, because I always think that there's going to be that situation where I do go a little too far from the trail and I get that deer a little too close to dark and I'm going to want to send it up a tree and come back for it the next day. And so with a pulley and 100 feet of rope, I should be very capable of doing that. So this is not very heavy, and that travels with me. This paracord, I was at Princess Auto, and this was on the kind of a sale where you can't resist, and you buy like way too many of them, and then you're giving them away to your friends. And it's a nice bright orange, hunter orange. And so for a couple of bucks from Princess Auto, I have that, and that goes everywhere I go. It also is definitely heavy enough rope that if I want to drag a deer, that's my rope. And it's also small enough I can take the smaller cords out of the main rope, and I can use them to tie off the anus or the esophagus when I'm doing my field dressing, or if I need to use rope for anything else. It's just always handy to have rope, and paracord is a very good way to carry a lot of rope without a lot of weight, but to still have a lot of strength. If I'm pulling deer, it's nice to find a good sturdy branch to wrap the rope around. If you wrap it around your hand, your fingers are going to freeze, you're going to lose feeling in them, you're going to hurt your fingers. So I do have a little silky saw, so that lives in my hunting bag now too, and then I can very quickly saw up whatever size length of branch or tree that I want to drag a deer. It's also handy if you get to a spot and it looks too good to keep walking through, and you want to like maybe do a little bit of cutting and set up a little ground blind or something. A saw is always handy. If anything falls apart on me, I have Gorilla Tape, but I haven't used this yet. But you know, everybody and their uncle will tell you that you can't go wrong carrying some duct tape around. And if you're going to carry duct tape, why not go for the Duct Tape Plus? So I have an unused roll of Gorilla Tape. And coming down to the end here, lastly, I have my trout and bird knife from Groman. This is not a very large knife, but I find a smaller knife to do a much better job when you're field dressing deer. And this one I have found to keep a very good edge. This is a stainless steel one. I have several other models, but this is a nice small fixed blade knife, and it lives in my bag. I don't put it on my belt because I like to wear a knife on my right side, and I like to sling my rifle on my right side, and a lot of the times it rubs or will even scratch my my rifle buttstock, so it just lives in my bag. And same thing goes for my folder. So I have a little Kershaw folder, and when I'm hunting, I don't leave it clipped on my belt. I actually drop it down into the bottom because I find the clip scratches on the wood, and I love that gun too much to have a whole bunch of unnecessary scratches on it. So the knife comes off the pocket edge and down into the bottom of the pocket. And I don't always remember to sharpen my knives before I go out, but I bring my sharpener with me. And even if I'm like halfway through field dressing something, or I hit a bone too hard, or I end up wanting to butcher a deer at the hunt camp and all I've got is my knife, and I've done that before. I've butchered a whole deer with a Groman trout and bird before. I have the means to sharpen it up razor sharp again with this Work Sharp. If you don't have one of these, they're really handy. They have a rough diamond, a smooth diamond, a ceramic, and a leather strop with paste and 20-degree angle guides. I can get a knife extremely sharp with this in a very small amount of time, and it's been really handy. I have a weird little vial in my bag, and that's because sometimes I find interesting things that I cannot pass up, and I don't want to put them in a pocket. It might be some weird animal poops or bones or feathers or bugs, or maybe I get a tick and I want to get it checked out. I could think of a million ways that I might use this, so I always have like a weird little sample vial, as well as, I forgot to mention this, a bunch of extra Ziplocs. So a lot of the time I think people, you know, they think it might be interesting to keep some deer organs, but they shoot a deer and everything comes out in the gut pile, and then they don't know where to put the liver or the heart or the kidneys, so it all ends up staying in the bush. I've got extra Ziploc bags, and so that way I can put all my organ meats or fats or things that I want to keep into these Ziploc bags, and then they can travel right inside my hunting bag without getting everything all bloody and goopy. So those are really handy. I also will put like my flashlight and my electronics in them if it starts to get damp out or wet snow, and I get worried about things traveling loose in my bag, my hunting bag. Then I'll just bag it all up. And finally, when you get to the end of the day and you're still out there, at least in Ontario, you legally must encase your gun after dark. And so I always carry a empty gun sock in my hunting bag. So that all fits in there. I'm gonna weigh this in a minute, and I'll also add that it fits in there and leaves enough empty space in that bag that I can add things to it. So because I am a ground hunter, you know, I overdress because sometimes I'm not moving that fast and it's easy to get a chill or you end up walking through water. But if I over layer, at least I can take layers off and throw them in my bag without trying to like tie them around my waist or anything silly like that. Okay, so let's get this all together. We're going to weigh it up, and then I've got a couple questions for you guys. Okay, I'm going to put everything in there, including the binoculars. And that water bottle is empty, so we're going to add 1 kilogram and pretend that it's full. But I do have that whole box of shells in there. Oh, I didn't add my milkweed. Stuff that in there. And you know, normally my binoculars are on my neck, so they maybe shouldn't count as bag weight. And there's quite a bit of stuff in there, and coming out at 11.5 pounds. 11.5 pounds for my standard ground hunting bag. Just a simple bag, 2 mesh side pockets, 1 main pouch. I like it. I like that it's blaze orange. Even though in Ontario you can legally wear a backpack over your orange vest, but only if it doesn't obscure the orange from all sides. So when you turn around and you've got that backpack on, people should still be able to see orange above, below, and to the sides. So rather than like try and figure that out, I just like to go with an orange bag. Okay, questions for you guys. I'm curious to know what your favorite piece of hunting gear is, and also curious to know how many bullets you take with you hunting, because I think this really varies from person to person. For me, I carry a box. So when I'm deer hunting, I only have 3 in my gun, but I have a box with me. If I'm grouse hunting, probably only expecting to shoot 5 times in a day of grouse hunting, but I always carry a full box with me. I always have 25, same 22, right? Carry a box of 50. Just because they come in a box like that, it seems convenient. Curious to know what you guys think. And we'll be rolling out some more videos this fall, hopefully getting out for a late season grouse hunt. We have a foot of snow right now, so it's probably going to be a snowshoe grouse hunt, and some other adventures as well. Okay, hope you all had a great deer season. I had some mixed success. I did get a doe, an antlerless deer in the Parry Sound area earlier in the season, and then I hunted the late season on Manitoulin Island and got skunked there. But I think my deer hunting's done for this year, but I'm already thinking about next year.